So we are back in the garage with the Hyundai. It's 2 days later after pulling the cylinder head off. I had to talk with my sister and I told her, hey, since it turns out it's not the problem that I was initially thinking, which was like oil getting past the piston rings and the oil control rings and all that stuff, and it's just a broken valve. I told her this can easily be fixed and put back together and this engine should be fine. I don't know why the valve broke in the first place. I don't know if it had a hairline crack in it or if it was a defective part or it's just common for these valves to break on these Hyundais. I have no idea. The point is we can put it back together and the car is going to be perfectly fine. I kind of convinced her that I don't think the car is worth trading in because you would just be upside down. It's just a matter of keep your car, it's in great condition still, and just finish paying it off, and this problem that we have can be fixed. She's going to go ahead and keep the car. So with that being said, I told her if you're going to keep the car, then it makes sense to replace the timing chain and the timing chain tensioner with OEM parts, of course. Because it's at, at 126,000 miles, it's just the right thing to do to replace those parts while you're in there. Today, the timing chain tensioner came in. You can see it's got the Hyundai logo right there. I checked the part already. It looks identical to the one that came off. Still waiting on the OEM timing chain to arrive, so that'll be a few days. But today I did get my Lyle valve spring compressor tool. So we're gonna go ahead and use this today to remove the old valves. We're gonna go ahead and start with the valve that's bad. You can see I put a rag underneath that combustion chamber to support the two valves under there while you hit them. Now this is my first time using this tool, so let's see how it goes. I've seen plenty of YouTube videos and people say it works. So it's just two different sizes. It's the same tool, but one's for larger valves or valve springs, and this one's for the smaller ones. This thing has really small valve springs on it, so we're gonna use a smaller tool and essentially just put this on here and whack it with a hammer. It should pull out the keepers. I got my safety glasses on like always. I learned my lesson the hard way, trust me, a few years ago. Ooh, look at that. Perfect, very first try. The keepers are inside of there. Oh, this is absolutely fantastic. See, but I had no doubt about taking these apart. My concern is with putting it back together because that process seems a little bit more tricky with this tool, but apparently it works. So let's try it one more time with the other exhaust valve. There we have it. That's amazing. All right, let's see if the valves will come out pretty easy. This is the broken valve. Yeah, slid right out, no problems at all. But even the valve stem seal seems kind of weak. That could contribute to oil burning because the oil gets past that seal. So it's a good thing. We're gonna go ahead and change them out. But let's just pull this out. The same thing for the lower one. And it pretty much feels the same. So here goes one of our brand new valves. Let's just go ahead and test fit it. I got some brand new oil right here, so we'll put it on the stem. Hopefully it fits in this guide with no issues. And yeah, it's going in. So right there, I can feel it hitting that valve stem seal. Push it right past. There you go, seems to fit perfectly. But of course, we're not gonna just go ahead and do that. We have a lot of work to do here. We have a lot of cleaning to do. So I'm gonna go ahead, turn the head over, and we'll focus on trying to get this carbon out of here. I just want to show you guys a short update on how things are going. You can see the right side of the head has been cleaned a little bit. I just did this to show you guys a before and after. Let's start with the elephant in the room, which is the surface of the head right here. First of all, spray it down with brake parts cleaner and just wipe it down with a rag. And whatever is remaining, I use this 3M white bristle brush, and I just kept it flat and moved it very quickly along. This thing is perfectly safe for aluminum, guys. It does not remove aluminum, and it's just really cleaning up the surface. And all we're doing is getting crap like this off of the sealing surface of the cylinder head. Okay, so that does not gouge the metal. It doesn't do anything. All it does is clean it up. I've been using this for years on cylinder heads, and I've never had a return with a head gasket issue. To top it off, this head gasket was not blown, so we know that the head is flat. That's not an issue. Of course, if you're dealing with a warped head or a blown head gasket, you want to look into what's causing it. You could leave a comment about it if you want, but I could guarantee you it's going to be fine. This thing is going to seal up. So here's an example. All I did was hit this one chamber right here at the wire wheel for like 5 seconds. Look at all the carbon buildup that's coming off in like 5 seconds. Isn't that crazy? These direct injected engines really do suck. All right, so I got done my initial cleaning. can see it looks way better. If I were in a rush, let's just call it that to be nice, at this point you would just slap the new valves in and this bad boy is ready to go back on the car. But like I said, we're gonna pull out all the valves. I have some valve lapping compound here. See it right there. Now I do have one of those like hand or manual valve lapping tools, but it's not here, or at least I can't find it. Oh, the joys of moving, right? You think to yourself, like, it's gotta be here. I know I brought it. So that really sucks when you can't find tools. I don't know. Let's see if it's possible to lap in the new valves without using that tool. All right, so I got the new valve right here. I put brand new oil on the stem. It's very important that the valve guide inside of there is clean. So I made sure to spray the 2 valve guides with brake parts cleaner. Make sure I get as clean as I can. I already went ahead and put some of the valve lapping compound. I just went ahead and spread it out very thin. You don't need a lot of it. So at this point, just start right here. You want to be 100% sure that you don't get any of that valve lapping compound onto the valve guide, because it'll start to wear them out very quickly. All right, so I got the new valve in place with some valve lapping compound on it. And since I don't have my tool with me, I'm just doing it from the back side. And you can see I'm doing it by hand like this. And what I have going on is pretty much this setup right here. This tool right here is kind of like a mini like Jacob's chuck, but it lets you put a ratchet on the other end. Of course, I'm not using a ratchet. I'm just using it to hold onto the valve from the backside. And I could go ahead and turn the valve manually with the valve lapping compound. When I first started, it sounded very gritty. And right now it's getting like a more smoother tone. So I'm about ready to take the valve back out, clean it off 100%, put some more compound on it, and keep doing this until we're all done. That's pretty much it, guys. That's the entire process. And it's a very long and tedious process, considering I have to do it for each and every valve. And one thing I should mention is basically whenever you're doing this process and you put a valve in this spot, that valve is pretty much married to that spot. So meaning if I go ahead and lap this valve into this spot of the head, when it comes time for reassembly, don't put this valve in this spot. Make sure everything goes exactly where you lapped it, where it came out of. Just one more final update. Just want to show you guys what the valve now looks like after its second round of lapping. You can see the gray mark going all the way around the valve is even larger now, but it's very consistent all the way around. Looks great. And the same thing over here on the head. The ring on the head has appeared to be a little bit wider now, so that's exactly what we're looking for. That means we have a greater contact patch and it's going to be better at sealing. Like I said, it's very important that you don't get any of that valve lapping compound on the valve guide. So what I like to do is, since we just took it out, pretty much go ahead and back flush that valve. Spray brake parts cleaner in from this side, right? And spray brake parts cleaner in from this side. So we are back flushing that valve just to ensure there is no valve lapping compound inside of there. I know it's hard for some people to see a difference of before and after of lapping the valve. So I put the other valve, these are the 2 new ones right next to each other. On the left, we got our brand spanking new one, haven't even touched it. And then on the right is the one we just finished lapping. You can see the gray mark going all the way around it. So that's the difference between one that's been lapped and one that's brand spanking new. This is why I thought it was important to remove all the valves and give them a good lapping, because this is a exhaust valve from a different cylinder. And if you look closely, you can see very light pitting on the sealing surface. It's nothing major. I think once we lap it, it'll be fine. But this is just proof on why it's a good idea to take care of all of the valves while you're in here. And here's that same valve after lapping it. You can see it looks way better. I don't see any pitting, and it looks very consistent all the way around. It's the next day and our timing chain came in, so I'm gonna go ahead and set that aside and just continue working on the head. As you can see, I'm moving along here. I got all of the valves numbered, so I make sure everything goes back where it came out. And as I clean up the valves and lap them, I'm setting them over here and I'm making sure to renumber each one to make sure it goes exactly where it came out of. Instead of leaving all the little parts sitting right here on the bench where you could easily lose something, I decided to put everything away where it's safe and neat. So you can see I got the intake and exhaust. This is where I got the keepers in, keeping everything organized. Here goes the intake springs and all of the exhaust springs. So after many hours of cleaning these valves and lapping, look at all of them. They almost look like brand new valves. Super happy with the way they turned out. But I'm not exaggerating when I say that's hours worth of work. Looking at the cylinder head, I cleaned inside of each port the best I can. Nothing major, guys. You know, it's not like we're trying to build a high horsepower engine here. We're just trying to clean everything up. You know, if it's off, just put in the elbow grease and spend a little bit of time, or in my case, a lot of time, cleaning things up. And you can see I got most of the carbon out. Nothing is perfect, but it's a million times better than the way it was before. The amount of carbon built up in all the ports is just absolutely crazy. So all of this is pretty much ready to go. I'm gonna flip the head over and let's see if we can remove the valve stem seals. So I've already gone ahead and done the first 4 valves. You can see the seals are gray in color, whereas the original ones have like a maroon or a brown color to them. All the new seals, they're all the same part number, same color, everything. So there is no intake side and exhaust side. It uses the same parts across the board. So you don't got to worry about that. I'm going to go ahead and remove one of the old one and show you guys what it's like. It's actually pretty easy as long as you have a good set of pliers. So I'm going to be using the Knipex Cobra pliers. I'm going to go ahead and pull out this one first. Show you how easy it is. Basically, you get a real good grip on it. And what I like to do is start rocking it back and forth. Once you give it a few rocks back and forth, you feel it start to loosen up. That's when you start the twisting. So at that point, you keep rocking, a little bit of twisting, and you just keep working it, and eventually it comes right off. There you have it. Not too bad to get them off. And here I have a brand new one. So what I like to do is grab some fresh oil, because there's actually rubber inside of here and you don't want that to go on dry. So, you know, clean up the guide if you want, wipe it down, do whatever you want. Fact is, there's just oil everywhere, so you can only do so much cleaning. Put the new one in place, try to push it down just to get it started. And what actually fits over the seals is just a regular 17mm socket. Put it right over it, and you give it a few taps with a small hammer, and you're gonna hear the sound change, and that's when you stop. Right there. So it's done. That's one valve stem seal, and basically repeat the process for all of them. I got all of the seals installed. As you can see, I gave each of them a squirt of oil. So let's turn the head over and install the valves. So I showed you guys the back of the valves already and how nice and clean they look, and they pretty much look like they're almost brand new. So I went ahead and put most of the valves in place. As you can see, I kept them in the same exact order that they came out and that I lapped them. So you can see all the numbers 1 through 8 and then 9 through 16. The last one I have to put in is valve number 15. Now what I'm doing is putting just a little bit of oil, clean brand new oil, on the stem itself. I'll go ahead and pop it in. And one thing I'm noticing that the new seals are noticeable. There is more resistance on the valve stem, which is expected because it's a brand new seal and it should feel like that. So hopefully that helps at least a little bit with the oil burning. But guys, this side is pretty much all done. Look how pretty that looks. Massive improvement over what came out of the engine. So it's time to turn the head over and start installing the springs, the keepers, and all that stuff, the retainers. So I'm trying to get the valve spring installed using this tool. And let me tell you one thing. For removing the valve springs, this tool works amazing, super fast. But reinstalling them, yes, it works, but it's significantly more difficult. So as you can see, I got 2 of them done already. But those 2 took me like 15 minutes and multiple tries. So here's the best advice I could give you. You have to support the valve from the bottom, right? Just like when you're taking it apart. But when you're reassembling, do not use a rag, because when I did the first one and after so many attempts and I finally got it to work, I turned the head over and guess what? The rag was trapped between the head and the valve. So I had to undo it, pull the rag out, and redo it again. The second time, I just grabbed some cardboard. You can see I got some folded up cardboard right there. Just give it a few layers until it's nice and thick and shove it underneath there to support the valve. It's your best option. So once you get the cardboard underneath the valve to support it, here I got two examples. None of these are set yet, but this is my best recommendation for success. You can see on the right side here how the keepers are around the valve stem, right? That's how you want to get it. This doesn't guarantee it's going to work the first try, but it's your best chance for success. On the left side, you see how the keepers are still above the valve stem. Don't do that. That's going to fail every single time. At least like this, you may have to try it 4 or 5 times, but eventually it'll work. This right here almost never works. The one I was just pointing out to you, this one right here, I did it off camera on the very first try I went in. So this one I got the keepers just how I want them, like I was telling you earlier. Let's see if I can get it for you guys on camera. Now, you know when it works because it has like a very distinct pop or a click. And no hammer or anything. I'm just using my body weight. That right there, you heard that? And look at it, it worked. So when you hear that loud pop, that's when you know that the keepers have engaged. And on this Hyundai, the valve stems stick up like that. So that's normal. I know on some cars, the valve stem is actually flush with the retainer, but not on this car. I retract everything I just said, guys. Because once I applied the technique that I just showed you with the keepers that make sure they're in the correct location, I literally installed every single valve spring on my very first attempt. This tool works fine. It was basically just user error. I'm an idiot. No regrets. Anyway, the whole head is complete. You can see all of the valve springs are installed. This thing is good to go, like the new chicken fajita from Taco Bell. So it's about, I don't know, 8 p.m. So I'm done for tonight. I got the head complete. I'm really happy with that. The head looks absolutely fantastic. Here goes my piece of cardboard that I was using to support the valves. This is way better. Don't put any type of fabric underneath here. Like I said, it's just gonna get stuck in the valves. And here we have it, guys. Of course, everything's gonna get one final cleaning before assembly. But that's gonna be it right there. Let's give it some good juju. Give it some spray. Brake parts cleaner right now. Oh yeah. Who's that Pokemon? It's Pikachu! So it's the next day, and I spent some time cleaning up the block and the pistons. You can see it looks a million times better. So what I started with was a carbide scraper just to get only the big chunks off. Like right at the very end, right here, there was like silicone. That's really what I use this for. Next, I moved to the 3M white bristle brush. And since it has a large surface area, it's easy to go across the whole thing. Don't apply any real pressure. This thing actually eats through all the crap that's here on the deck pretty easy. So just move around quickly. And then when you find like little spots where there's like parts of the, like say the old head gasket material, it just doesn't want to come up, I switched over to this piece, which is the same exact one of these, but it's just much smaller, so you could really, you know, fine tune things and get to where you want to be. You can see everything looks pretty good. Now, when I started cleaning the pistons, I left the head gasket on it to try to cover up as much of the ports as I can. And then I only pulled off the head gasket when it was ready to actually clean the deck. So everything's looking pretty good. The antifreeze and the oil on this thing needs to get changed out because it is contaminated. One thing I am seeing that I'm not really happy about, but it is what it is cylinder number 3. Once it's at top dead center, there appears to be a piston slap. So here's piston number 3 at top dead center. And I could even hear a little bit of noise right now just by moving it with my fingers. I can't imagine when this thing is at, you know, 5, 6, 7,000 RPM, whatever the heck. And it's really unfortunate because Hyundai has a good warranty. You can't really beat it. Their cars are starting to look really nice. Price is right. But when it comes down to their engines, the quality control just isn't there. And I've seen enough of Hyundai's engine problems to decide that we're not going to get one, because initially we were thinking that when it's time to get rid of our Nissans, we were going to get a Hyundai. But after seeing these engine problems left and right come into my garage, and keep in mind, I'm a small garage. I see very limited of these things, and yet I've seen more than enough, even in my small garage that I got going on here. And it's enough to just kind of push you away from it. What I'm going to do is, while I got these two cylinders down, I'm going to go ahead and oil them up. And then I'll push these two pistons down and oil up the boards as well, just to make sure when the engine starts up for the first time, it's not starting up dry. Easiest way to do this is to put some brand new oil on your hand and just kind of wipe it on the cylinder walls. That looks pretty good right there. I already did this one over here. So let me go ahead and get these two pistons to go down, and we'll do the same exact. Since the block is pretty much ready to go, we got to turn our attention back to the cylinder head. You can see there's all this silicone on top from where the top half of the head bolts to it. So we got to go ahead and clean up this surface. I'm going to use my carbide scraper to get all the old silicone off, clean it with brake parts cleaner, and then once I'm done with that, we'll follow up with the 3M white bristle brush. Again, safe for aluminum. It's not going to remove any material, or any metal, I should say. So I'm pretty much done with the cylinder head. All sides are cleaned up very nicely. Anything where something else is getting made up against it looks pretty dang good. I showed you guys the water outlet side already, and here goes the top side. You can see how nice that turned out. So good news is today the spark plugs showed up. We have a set of NGKs because that's what belong in this engine. What did it have before? I think it was like auto lights that we pulled out. Yeah, those don't belong in this engine. So we got some nice quality NGKs for it. One thing I am noticing is in the kit that I have, it did not come with this O-ring right here for the water outlet. And I know you guys can't tell, but this O-ring is flattened out, especially right here in this top corner. So if you were to just try to reuse this, that's a guaranteed leak right there. So I'm gonna have to go ahead and order this O-ring. So one more thing that I think is a good idea is, you know how when we were cleaning up the pistons and all the surface right here, I said you can only protect these passages so much. So you see the antifreeze down there, and if you look closely, there's like debris and crap floating on the surface of that antifreeze. Put this right inside of here, and we're gonna suck up this contaminated antifreeze. So it isn't much, but if we look inside of there, there used to be big like chunks of debris just floating around inside the coolant, and you see how I was able to suck it all up. So I'll just keep going all the way around here wherever I could fit this thing in, and just keep trying to get out whatever I could. It's time for the final wipe down of everything. I got brand new rags, got some fresh gloves on, some fresh underwear. No, I'm just joking, guys. I didn't change my gloves. So yeah, let's give it that final wipe down. So even though the deck and all of the ceiling surfaces looked really clean, with some brake parts cleaner on a clean rag, you could see what comes off. So there's still plenty to do, even if it looks clean. Be sure to blow out each of the holes where the head bolts go. Make sure there's no liquids inside of there or anything. And let's grab the new head gasket. The new head gasket fit perfectly. It only goes on one way, so you can't mess it up. There we have it. I wiped it down 2 times with brake parts cleaner, clean rag, and blew it off 2 times with compressed air. This thing is ready to go back on. Okay, so this side fell right in. And look over here. And this side is right on the dowel. So I looked around the entire head with a mirror, and everything looks perfect, guys. I could not have asked for a better outcome. It literally fell right into the perfect place. Of course, it has 2 dowels. I think it had one over here and one over here, and it fell right onto those dowels. I got our bag of brand new head bolts right here. The only thing I'm noticing that's different is the new bolts are slightly longer. Maybe it's like a 1/4 inch. So what I'm going to do now is I need to find something like a small thin stick to put where the head bolt goes in, and see how much depth we have to play with, because we definitely want to make sure that these head bolts are not going to bottom out. If they bottom out, then it's not going to hold down the cylinder head, and then you're just asking for trouble. So an easy way to check for the depth is to just grab a long thin screwdriver. I'm using a Phillips, put a zip tie on it, and feed it into the hole until it bottoms out. right there, bottomed out. And now when you pull out the screwdriver, this is your exact depth of where the zip tie stopped. Look at this, we have oil inside of there. So it's a good thing I caught this, because if that oil has nowhere to go to, it's gonna hide your lock and it won't let you torque down the head bolts properly. So I'm gonna have to make sure I put my vacuum pump inside each of the head bolt holes, get all that oil out of there. So it's not a big deal, but let's go ahead and check this. So this is the original head bolt, and if we line it with the very tip of the screwdriver, that's how much space there is between the washer on the head bolt and where the zip tie stopped. Like we said, the new head bolts are slightly longer, so if we do the same exact thing, wait, did I get these confused? Yeah, I did get them mixed up. Okay, so this is the original one. You can see how much space we have between the zip tie and the head bolt, and this is how much space we have between the new head bolt. So it's cutting it close, guys. And that's a negative. Head bolts don't fit. So I guess that explains why they're a little bit longer, because they don't fit this engine.